Well, in the last 24 hours, and you may have noticed that there's been a lot of talk about the special prosecutor, that is Agyebeng. And so we are looking at the Agyebeng effect, and largely because of the statement that we've seen from the LaBianca. LaBianca has been one of those much talked about issues that the special prosecutor has investigated. But before this, you may have noticed in the headlines that in the last 2 weeks, generally, the special prosecutor has been talked about quite a lot. Even Martin Amidu had cause to write about him and criticizing the work that he's done. And that's the former special prosecutor, the first former prosecutor. So we decided tonight to really look into the work of the special prosecutor since he was appointed, really, the new special prosecutor. So we're going to have a conversation, nicely couched, the Special Prosecutor Vrs Corruption, the Agyebeng effect, which really is the thing. As you may recall, it was famously stated by the former Auditor General that when you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. Is that what really is happening in the case of the Special Prosecutor? Is he coming up against corruption, and who's going to win? So what do we know? As far as his own work is concerned, Agyebeng's work is concerned, we have a case of so many, incidents that he's looking into. 5 major cases, 70 others at various levels of consideration. That's a lot on his plate, considering what he's doing. And a few of them include the Airbus matter, which his predecessor, Martin Amidu, began investigating, banking and financial sector crisis, recruitment to cadet officers, training at the Ghana Police Academy, estate of Kojo Usefriye, that the Sir John controversy. We have the Northern Development Authority's investigation as well that he's looking into. Now, then this new kid on the block, I'm talking about Agyebeng, causing a lot of stir indeed, mainly in the last few days, has been because of his investigation that he's commenced into the suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses in respect of auction sales of vehicles and other goods by the Custom Division of the GRA between the 1st of July 2016 and 15th August 2022. Now, he's given a special focus on what is happening at the ports, and this is after he had done the subject of the LaBianca. And when he went to LaBianca, he found issues of influence peddling, but also, as you know, he got the LaBianca company to, pay to the state more than 1 million cedis. Many said that was good. The first time the OSPs actually retrieved anything of substance is when Agyebeng went in there. But people associated with the LaBianca company, or those who work in that same environment, many of them have fought back quite vehemently in the last few weeks. We've seen the LaBianca company themselves, 2 weeks after that report was made public by the OSP, come out today with a very interesting statement that the influence peddling finding in the SP's report is not accurate. They say they deny it completely. And in other words, it's false. And that the OSP has not written to them officially about this. In fact, they say that due process and fair trial rules have been breached by the SP. But you have to ask the question, if this is really the case, why did they agree to make that 1 million CD payment? Is that an admission of wrongdoing? So we'll come to that when I talk to my guests. And then we've seen the Chamber of Freight and Trade also join in this conversation about the special prosecutor on this particular matter. And then the response from Martin Amidu, this for me was a major surprise, considering that this is Martin Amidu, the man who was the first special prosecutor, writing, criticizing the work of his successor, Agyebeng. How much should we read into that, knowing who Martin Amidu is, fighting or criticizing another anti-corruption officer? It's quite an interesting one. I found that very, very curious. And I would ask my guest how much you read into this when he issued that statement, especially when those who have been accused and found culpable themselves had paid money and also were fighting back to have Martin Amidu so jumping. But listen to his concerns. He said the report does not disclose commission of any corruption or corruption-related offenses by LaBianca. Does that suggest that Agyebeng was, going beyond his mandate? Because that's what he's supposed to do. If there's no corruption or corruption-related offense, why did he investigate in the first place? And then the OSP's LaBianca report is hollow, without mandate, and unconstitutional. I guess that's a point that he was making there. I'll see what my guests agree with this matter when we return. I have all the guests who know this subject very well, but I really want to get your thoughts on all the talk that we've had, the headlines that the special prosecutor has grabbed over the last 2 weeks on many issues, the ports, the cars, etc. Is it properly earned? Is it justified? Is it something that should give us cause for jubilation in the fight against corruption, or is this window dressing an initial stage of really something that doesn't go anywhere? I'll get my guests to chip in when we return. Thank you for joining us. Let's get straight into it. My guest joining me tonight, Kofi Bentil, is the Vice President of Imani Africa. Mary Ada is a Senior Programs Manager and Research Officer at the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Vitus Azim, anti-corruption campaigner, used to be the head of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Kofi, let me start with you. I mean, the special prosecutor has grabbed the headlines, dominated it in the last 2 weeks. Are you convinced there is substance to the form?
Good evening. Yes, I am. And I am hopeful that it will not be a 9-day wonder. I want to believe that he will maintain the momentum. There's a lot of work for him to do. And already the kinds of problems you are seeing him coming up against are to be expected. So I don't think he will necessarily be too deterred by some of those things. So the short answer is, I am very happy that at least for the first time in the short life of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, we are seeing some real action. That's what we were hoping for. We hope that this will continue. So far, it is not a trend. There have just been a few situations. We hope he will continue. We hope he will not be deterred by the resistance. Of course, corruption fights back, and everybody has a right to, legal redress. So whatever is happening in terms of the fighting back is to be expected. And I think that he has the wherewithal, he has the mettle, he has the legal knowledge, and I hope he will get the necessary resources to continue this fight. It is not one of those things that you hit and you go. So I am very hopeful, and whatever we need to do to support him, we will all do that.
I mean, Mary, I remember very well, you're part of the Anti-Corruption Coalition and the Ghana Integrity Initiative, issuing a statement about his predecessor, not happy with the pace of work and getting things done back when Martin Amadou was there. Martin Amadou also fairly grabbed the headlines for a lot of reasons. When he was there, initially appointed, there was a lot of talk about things that he was doing. Initial stages, there was excitement. But that, we didn't see it bear real fruits. Hence, the complaint from anti-corruption, you write as a letter demanding answers and an update on a number of issues. If you transpose that to what we're seeing now with this new special prosecutor, do you have the same concerns about what we're seeing? There's a lot of excitement because of the headlines, but we've seen this before, have we not?
Yes, we've seen this before. Let me say good evening to Kofi, good evening to you, Evans, and also good evening to the viewers out there. We've seen this before, but the comparison could be different. We say it's different because in the case of Martin Amadou, he was somebody who had been appointed from the opposite side of the government. And so he was an opposition member who had been appointed. So for us, in anti-corruption, we saw him as an independent person who could actually fight corruption from within and also without. So that excitement was very palpable. Unfortunately, it was down in the initial stages because we didn't see very much happening. Because our expectations were that high. We had an office that had just been set up, and he needed to put in place the outfit the logistics and all that was needed to ensure that he started. And he also needed to also start fighting corruption by investigating, prosecuting, and doing the others, recovering of assets if need be. And unfortunately, we didn't see much of that happening. In this case, this is somebody we do not know his political leaning. We see he has studied the terrain. If you remember from his appointment, the concern had been that we do not know much, even though he was a lecturer and he has been a lawyer who has taken up some cases in the past. We didn't know him to be an advocate of such to do this job. So the concerns were raised. However, after almost a year, special prosecutor is beginning to show that he is actually interested in doing this work, whether it is the party which appointed him, whether he believes in their ideology or not, he would want to do it. And if you listen to the anger and the commentary around the issues that he's dealing with, you would realize that some party, excuse me to say foot soldiers, or let me say communicators, have gone out there to indicate their displeasure of some of the things he is doing. I remember about 2 weeks ago when this LaBianca thing came out, on most of the radio stations, it was out there that he is not doing enough. So they want to see him fight corruption from the opposition side. So there have been a lot of issues. That's what I heard from one. Why are you not tackling those? Why are you coming this way? So it's like he is witch hunting, but he is doing the work. This is what we want to see. As a people, we want to see more of these investigations coming up. And Evans, let me quickly say that this has a potential of engendering trust of the people in the fight against corruption. So those who were reluctant in releasing whistleblower complaints are now quick to bring them to the SP to investigate. And he, as you indicated, he's already getting a lot of cases. And unfortunately, he still does not have the needed logistics to engage in all of them. But then it is good that the visibility he gaining for himself and the office through the cases he is pursuing. Going forward, I believe that a lot could be done if he indeed is steadfast and continues to engage the public and also engage holistically in this fight, not catering at all or looking at anybody, be it the president himself or whoever, because he is there to fight corruption. That is what the act says. Any act that looks like corruption, he is there to prevent its occurrence. He is there also to assist us to recover assets. And it's already started in that we should be a little happy with that and then hope that as we go forward, a lot more would be done.
Okay, I mean, Vitus Azim, what's your assessment of his work so far? Are you convinced he started well, but has what it takes to run the full length?
When you're assessing somebody's work as an anti-corruption or an institution's work as an anti-corruption institution, for me, I look at two things: successful prosecutions and amounts of money recovered from illegally taken monies. And on that level, I think it has not met the expectations of many of us. Having said that, what has come up in the last 3 or so months is an indication that he is in a position to do that.
Okay.
That there are prosecutions that are ongoing and that he has at least been able to recover money from one person or one company. But of course, this is just a drop in the ocean. And so much as we commend him for what he has done so far, we think that he needs to do more to meet the expectations of Ghanaians. But we also have to agree that he does not have the necessary resources, both human and material, to meet our expectations. And so whilst we are assessing the special prosecutor or his office, we also need to put pressure or to appeal to the government to give him the necessary resources to do his work. For example, when you look at what Colonel Damoa said about Mr. Kurugu,
yeah,
it's like he was going around to institutions begging for secondment of staff. This is not good enough for an anti-corruption institution. Because as an anti-corruption institution, he should be able to advertise publicly through the Public Service Commission, adopt a transparent administrative approach to recruit his staff so that people will have the confidence in the institution. So if he has to be begging for secondment of staff, that is not the best. So the Minister of Finance needs to give him the clearance to recruit the people that he needs, and he too must adopt a transparent process. You know, Matamidu's letter talked about he recruiting his friends and that kind of thing. And as an anti-corruption institution, that should be avoided completely. He should not allow anybody to accuse him of using unorthodox methods of appointing people to the institution. Because when you do that, people lose confidence in you. And the people coming in will not be independent enough to do their work because they will see it as a favor that you have done to them. So these are some of the issues that I think that we need to look at.
Yeah, I mean, Kofi, I want to come to you. I want to drill down to the specifics of, the case that had put the special prosecutor right in the heart of the news headlines, which is the La Bianca one and the ports operations. Listen to what Martin Amidou, and I'm only quoting because it's Martin Amidou. He's the man who was the first special prosecutor. We celebrate him as a citizen vigilante, but this is what he says about that report. And that report is a key one for a key victory for the special prosecutor because it's the first time he's retrieved something of value for the state. Martin says, in that investigation, La Bianca, quote, there was grave investigatory and prosecutorial misconduct and unconstitutional abuses of power that the report inflicts upon the independence, fairness, and impartiality of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Why does he say that? He says this because he quotes the law that sets up the Office of the Special Prosecutor. He says, in the investigation and the subsequent release of the report, that report did not contain or disclose the authority or mandate of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act and the way the report was written and directives given for payment of power. In effect, he's saying the OSP overstepped its authority. He goes on to conclude that he did not find any, let me quote it, a critical reading of the report discloses that it was purportedly made in pursuance of the exercise of its investigatory functions of the OSP into corruption and corruption-related offenses. However, he didn't find or make any findings that lead to corruption or suggest that there was corruption. What do you say to this when this is coming from Martin Amidou?
Evans, I hold a firm belief that we should not allow Mr. Martin Amidou, no matter how respected he is, to constitute himself into an authority to be running commentary post facto on the actions of the present OSP or the special prosecutor. Mr. Amidou, much as we respect him and we hail his appointment, failed. He had everything he needed to do the work, and nobody has everything perfectly. He opted to go the way he went and left the office. We now have Mr. Kisi Agyebeng there. Kisi has done more than Mr. Martin Amidou did. Mr. Martin Amidou should not be sniping at him, making such commentary. We all make commentary. We all criticize. We all say what we have to say. But you and I and everybody else should be careful not to constitute or make Martin into somebody who will be running commentary, and then we'll sit back and be analyzing what Mr. Agyebeng is doing because of what Martin Amidu is saying. I absolutely would not join that bandwagon. Mr. Kisi Agyebeng has done far more than Mr. Martin Amidu did in that office. Let's leave him alone. We will not leave Mr. Kisi Agyebeng to be walking in the shoes of Mr. Martin Amidu. He brought his own shoes. He's going to do things his own way. Mr. Kisi Agyebeng is a lawyer of significant repute and specifically a criminal law expert. So I don't think that anybody should be sitting down and running commentary when he hasn't even finished his work. He's on a course. He hasn't finished. We are all saying this is a good start. I just mentioned that it is early days yet for us to be hailing him. We are happy because he's achieved something. He just started. So why should Mr. Martin Amidu be running all this commentary? What he's doing constitutes sniping. It's a red herring. I urge Mr. Agyebeng to focus, and none of us should go on an analysis of what Mr. Martin Amidu is saying because we'll be wasting our breath. Let us see what we can do to make progress. I think Mr. Agyebeng is making progress. He has not finished his work. Yes, I agree with what my friend said. It's too little, in this time. But what do you expect him to do? He can go and, run people down and take money from them. He's doing something. So let's give him sufficient time. And if he doesn't deliver the goods, we will be back here to criticize him very, very sternly. But for now, I don't think we should allow the presence of Mr. Amidu and others who were given full opportunity and refused to do the job to come and run commentary on what other people are doing. So I'm not going to go there at all.
Mary, you agree?
Totally. I believe that people are given opportunity to serve this country. And when they have the opportunity, they do so. Again, I believe the Constitution gives us the right to freedom of expression. And so when we have our views, that is not to say we shouldn't make comments. We definitely have various avenues to air those grievances. But importantly, the channels of our communication also then determine how seriously people take us. You realize Kofi B is not even interested in assessing what he has said because of the channel of communication. I remember recently we were engaging somebody from the judicial sector to do an analysis for us on another group I belong to. And interestingly, this very, very notable retired justice of the Supreme Court made a very revealing statement which I should share here. He said, no professional judge who has served on the bench would be willing to engage in such a detraction of the profession they have served. So they've gone on retirement. I thought that was revealing, that he was not willing to assess the institution he's working in, even after he has left. And so the issue with the case at point is the fact that the channel of communication could have gone a different way. I know that the SP is available. I know his office is open, and I am very sure if there were issues to comment about to enhance the performance of the mandate of that office, those could have been channeled to the right source, and none of us would be making any commentary on this. And so I agree with Kofi Bentel that he should focus. Kisi Agyebeng should continue to remain focused and encourage Ghanaians to support him to investigate corruption, to prevent corruption, and to recover the assets and proceeds of crime that the very few are benefiting from. And he should do so being minded and guided by the various frameworks which support his office, and that is Act 959 and the 2 regulations that he is working with.
I mean, Kofi, I want to come back to you. I brought up Martin Amidu, and of course, he's almost, people are criticizing, Special Prosecutor, those that he found culpable obviously will fight back. But it appears, if you follow what has happened recently, the letter from LaBianca, the port, the GRA staff, in the last 2 weeks, we've seen this barrage of attack on him. Many say, whilst we've seen that, we haven't seen a concerted, united, I haven't seen a statement, Mary can correct me, from the anti-corruption group, also coming out with the same force to stand with him. Is that needed, do you think, Kofi?
No, it's not needed. Indeed, that is also interference. You know, the special prosecutor is an investigative unit. He has, powers to pinpoint you, Evans, for instance, if he has received some information about you. There is no proof that at the time that he is conducting his investigations and, dealing with you, everything that has been said about you is correct or is true. Mm-hmm. So indeed, it is possible for the special prosecutor to investigate somebody and for the person to come out innocent. Recently, there was a story about somebody who made a complaint and later went and said that, well, he was paid to make that complaint.
Yes.
So we, members of society at large, and especially persons like myself and Mary and Co, who are vocal in this space, and for that matter, organized civil society organizations, must not be seen during an investigation or during the work of the special prosecutor to be weighing on the side of either the special prosecutor or a person who is under investigation.
But what about when the forces who are implicated in his work go out there, like we saw, but there was a protest from the GRA staff, they issued threats, we've had the freights and importers, there was this barrage of attack on him. Doesn't he need at least the side of, civil society say, look, we've had it, but we agree.
Evans,
yes, Mary.
Evans, if I could come in, Corruption Watch,
yes,
which is a coalition of civil society organizations, CDD, GI, GACC, and NASELA, and the Joy brand is also a partner in Corruption Watch. We issued a statement speaking to the issues around what the investigation has done, but not to support the special prosecutor specifically, but then to lay out the issues. And just a week ago, if I'm not wrong, it is correct, it's on video.
Yeah.
Professor Jimakwedi has put his thoughts into a video which he has shared with the people of Ghana, and it's gone viral. So it is not wholly correct to say that we have not spoken. And for me, at a point, I even decided not to speak again because we're overbeating the drum of our support to the special prosecutor. Because our interest is the fact that he should continue to do his job, continue to remain focused, do not be distracted by anybody anywhere. So far as you know you are working within your purview, within your mandate as stated in Act 959, then he should not be distracted, and that's what we want to see. We have done that and done that very effectively. I have spoken. I know a lot more civil society has spoken, and the Citizens Coalition also. As members, we've spoken a lot, extensively. But we do not have to come out to even be speaking for. We've spoken on the issues of influence peddling because it is a topical matter that we needed to speak to.
Yeah.
We've spoken on whether the chairperson of the the chief executive of LaBianca, who is also a board person in the GPHA and a Council of State member, should be stepping down or not. These are issues we've exhaustively spoken to. So I don't know what you want us to do again.
Yeah, I mean, let me bring back Kofi in. I set up that question because of the experience we saw with the Auditor General. We saw how it ended with the Auditor General. When the wolves started settling, eventually we saw that he was literally forced out. How much faith do we have in the laws that we use to set him up? Because once he starts doing this, he will make enemies. I guess my question is, do we have enough faith in the law that sets him up to say that he has enough protection to do his job without ending up like Doma level?
So, yes, Evans, that point you've made is very good. And indeed, we do have enough faith, but no law is perfect.
Okay.
Over time, we have to be amending it, we have to be strengthening it, we have to be tweaking it to make sure it is good. Now, before Mary came in, and I agree with everything Mary said, I wanted to make the point about this, that we do not have to be seen to be weighing on the side of the special prosecutor all the time. So I'll leave that because Mary said that. But the important point I also have to make is this. There is a difference between attacking the special prosecutor and his work and fighting back or fighting to defend yourself. This must be made very, very clear. It is never right to attack the special prosecutor in the course of their work, even if they are investigating you. But you have every right in law under the Constitution to defend yourself, and that you must do. If in the course of the defense you feel like there are aspects of your defense which will go to the person of the special prosecutor, if, for instance, character evidence and things come up and it goes close to attacking his person, there will be grounds for that. So that being said, we need to know that people have a right to defend themselves, so we must allow them to defend themselves. Go through due process. But we need to make a difference between that and attacking the special prosecutor as if he's going on a witch hunt against somebody. Now, then you raise the next point. The next point is that if we leave people to hack at him, for instance, like Mr. Martinamidu just did, and allow people to denigrate the office, attack him, and snipe at him and all those other things, it will weaken his position, and ultimately it will give some politician sufficient zeal or some sort of energy, because they will feel, well, the man is discredited, to go after him, and maybe what happened to Mr. Domilevo could happen. That we all need to fight against. All right. So we need to make a difference in terms of these things. Whenever the office comes under attack to the point where it can be reduced, to the point where some politician can come and do away with it, we all have to rise and defend it. Whenever the person of the special prosecutor or any member of his staff or the office of the special prosecutor is attacked improperly, we all have to rise to defend them. Now, if, however, the person is fighting back as part of the due process, defending themselves and trying to make sure that they are not found guilty for what they have been accused of, we should allow them. Generally speaking, we should allow due process to take its course fully and get to an end. When the verdicts arise, however, and this person is guilty or is not guilty, we can all go and run commentary. But we should be careful to allow him to do his work without looking like we are supporting him in everything he does or we are against him. When we need to support him, like Mary has just said, we would all be ready to, support him. All of us put our voices, our time, our effort, all the discussions we had to have that office set up. So we must be seen to be supporting it in principle to succeed.
I mean, Vitus Azim, I wonder what you make of this, what your thoughts are on, in protecting that office and making sure that he has the room to do his work and do it well.
You see, Evans, we are in a democracy, and we should be talking about the issues and not the individuals involved. Mm-hmm. You cannot say that we should not allow Martinamidu to criticize the OSP. Look at the issues that Martinamidu has raised. Do they make sense? He's entitled. He's just one person out of 30 million people in Ghana. He's entitled to his views. And if you say we should not allow, so where is the freedom of expression? Those are his views he has expressed. He's put in the public domain. So it's not an issue of allowing him or not allowing him. Any of us is allowed to come out and say what we feel about the work of the Office of Special Prosecutor. Secondly, this is a new law and a new institution. So there might be weaknesses in the law and the people involved. The criticisms will help them probably make amendments to the law and even help the occupants of the position to change the way they deal with these things. From my discussions with Martinamidu, the issue of influence peddling, to him, it's not a corruption-related issue. Can we, or that is not a mandate of the Office of Special Prosecutor, can we amend the law by defining what corruption-related issues mean such that nobody will raise concerns about what the Office of Special Prosecutor comes out with, whether it conflicts with its mandate or not. So I think that we should not say that people should not criticize the Special Prosecutor. We should criticize him and the law. It will help us to amend the law, but also help him to do things in the right direction. After all, whatever decision the Special Prosecutor takes.
Your call has been put on hold.
Oh, goodness. We'll try and get him back, and I'm sure this happened by mistake. But Kofi Benton, he makes a very important point. I wonder what your response is to that point about the specific of the law. He says he had a chat with Martin Amidu. Martin Amidu says influence peddling is not a corruption-related offense. So what do you say to that?
I still say that nobody is saying Mr. Martin Amidu cannot comment. He has the same rights as I have, as you have, to comment on national issues. But what I'm saying is that the nature of the commentary must be such that it does not constitute sniping at the feet of the Special Prosecutor. The Special Prosecutor should concentrate. That is number one. Number two, we should not constitute ourselves into people to be running commentary on the commentary of Martin Amidu on the Special Prosecutor. It is totally pointless. And the criticisms of Mr. Martin Amidu, especially because he has had the opportunity to do some of that work and he opted to do it differently and leave, okay, will be taken with a pinch of salt. And like Mary said, please, let us leave the man to do his work. Now, Martin Amidu's view of the law, view of influence peddling, view of how the influence peddling affects this particular issue. All right?
Yes, Vitus, stay with me for a second. Vitus, stay with me for a second. We lost you briefly. Let Kofi wrap up and I'll come to you. Hello, Kofi.
So, if he's talking about influence peddling and that the Special Prosecutor did not, apply the law properly, it is his view, it is his opinion. And lawyers go to court because we all have different views and we go and argue pro and con, and then a judge will make the determination. It is the view of the present Special Prosecutor that what he's doing is proper. And indeed, if the Special Prosecutor himself finds that he is skirting the law or doing certain things differently, this Special Prosecutor has started an investigation and later stopped it because he got new information. So leave the man alone to do his work. What I'm saying is that let's criticize, but let us not constitute ourselves into, red herrings and sniping at his feet and commenting on the essence of his job, okay? And indeed, he is an experienced lawyer. He can, go beyond that, but we will end up confusing the public. So nobody is saying Mr. Martin Amidu should not criticize or comment. Indeed, I agree with Mary that given his stature as Mr. Martin Amidu, if he had these concerns about what Mr. Lawyer Agyebeng was doing, he could have easily reached out to him and said, my brother, I think you should go this way or go that way. We lawyers do that all the time. So the forum he chose was wrong. And the attitude he came with was as if to say, you don't know what you are doing and you are going to hit a snap. That is wrong. So please, he can comment. But we will not consider ourselves into, people to be running commentary on. This is what Martin Amidu says about what Mr. Agyebeng has done. We have work to do. We should focus, support Mr. Agyebeng, and let's see the outcome. Indeed, if at a point Mr. Agyebeng turns out to be so incompetent that he doesn't know the law, there are ways to deal with that matter. So it is too early for Mr. Amidu to suggest that Mr. Agyebeng is not applying the law properly.
Vitus, yes, you were making a point before we lost you.
Yes, I was making a point that, yes, we commend the Special Prosecutor for what he has done. But that doesn't mean that if we disagree with the law or the approach he's using, we should not talk about it. It's unfortunate that Martin Amidu has made this comment. But is Martin Amidu the only one that will criticize the work of the Office of Special Prosecutor? Why should we say that we should not allow? To use the word we should not allow. Are we talking about the freedom of expression? Or we think that, because we want to support the Special Prosecutor to fight corruption, we should not see anything wrong with the approach or whatever he does. I think that is not fair. We should look at the issues that Martin Amidu raised, see whether there is basis for those issues, his concerns, and then it will help to amend the law and also help the Special Prosecutor to do things in the right way. So I think that saying that we should not allow, we have no right to prevent anybody from coming out with his views on what they think about the work of the Special Prosecutor. I commend the Special Prosecutor. I'm happy with the approach he has taken, but I think that it's unfair or not right to say that we should not allow him, people to criticize him because we support him. That is wrong. We're in a democracy and everybody has a right to say what he or she wants, especially the decisions that the Special Prosecutor takes are likely to affect the lives of people, to affect the properties of people, and we must try to put him in line.
I mean, Mary, I want to move the conversation on to, for him to do his work, he needs to be resourced. We know that what he asked for, he hasn't received yet. I was on this show, I think, with you, where we analyzed that, his office, the Shraj and others. You work in that space. I wonder whether since that conversation, has anything changed in terms of the resources that he needs to execute and do his job?
Even at the last time, I believe I have had opportunity, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed whatsoever. Issues, in fact, there are even outstanding issues of those who are in the office and if they have been paid. I think we need to also begin to interrogate that. People who are recruited to serve in an anti-corruption institution should be paid and paid well so that they are not tempted to do things that the ordinary person in any position like that would be tempted to do. And so that's an area we should also be looking at, apart from resourcing them to ensure that that beautiful edifice which they use as an office is well suited for their purposes. Again, we are aware the last time we heard that budgets are intentions, and it doesn't mean that when they allocate certain portions for you, you should be getting all. And so our expectations should be measured. Unfortunately, again, we tend to have a different opinion on this. We have a different opinion on this because the Office of the Special Prosecutor is now setting up. They are doing recruitment. They need to as well get their offices fitted. And so they need a lot of resources now to ensure that they have everything they need to function as an office. We also know that now the board has been constituted, so perhaps that's what may have changed after the last discussion. And so a board is in place, and the board would give direction and clearance also for most of the recruitments of the higher level staff who are supposed to get the approval of the board. And we also know that the code of conduct that was started by the Venerable Martin Amidu would then be finalized, so that they can, staff who are recruited would have certain codes by which they are guided to operate in that office. But essentially, it doesn't look too good. And within the 10 million that they have, they are doing this. So I believe that if they give them a lot more, as they have asked for, they asked for 1 billion, they were not giving, they were giving 170. So if they give them all their 170, I am very sure that they, as Vitus indicated, they will not go around begging for people. But then the Act also knew that this interagency collaboration would be very important. And so the Act intentionally or purposefully puts in place the issues of people being seconded to the office when he needs them. No matter what, he would pick all the capable hands he needs, but there will be times when he would need these people being seconded. And so for me, I think that even as we are thinking about him getting all the resources to start, we should also be advocating that the various agencies should give him the best of the best to support this fight, because particularly the anti-corruption agencies, like the police, the GRA, the Shrajis of our time, the Yokos, the FICs, and the rest, when he comes calling, most definitely they should support him, because we are fighting one enemy, and that enemy is corruption, which is killing everybody slowly in this country.
I mean, Kofi, this problem has always been there. I mean, last time we did the show, Shraj complained they haven't received literally anything. the audit service was here talking about very, very grim details they gave him that day. And as you're hearing, nothing has changed. Shouldn't we try something different at fixing, at resourcing them? I mean, governments have always said they don't have money. I've heard somebody suggest to me recently that maybe we introduce pollution tax. Maybe we should introduce an anti-corruption tax where we take money from all of us and then we give it we give it to Shraj and officers, and then that one is dedicated to them. It goes on the fight.
Evans, I will never agree to a new tax for this purpose. But I will give you an idea. And I hope somebody will consider this idea. We keep adding to our government and keep expanding the size of our government because the existing institutions that are supposed to do the work fail. What do I mean? We have the Attorney General's Department. This originally should have been done by the Attorney General's Department. And we are saying there are so many reasons why they are not able to do it well. In this country, we had a serious fraud office. Essentially, they didn't do their job. We ended up with IOCO. Now, if IOCO was doing its work effectively well, we would not have needed the special prosecutor. My view is that whenever we set up one institution, what we should do is institutional reform, where we take away the budget of the existing institution that had to do that work. In other words, by setting up the office of the special prosecutor, we should have halved the budget of IOCO. And everything that a special prosecutor can do, which IOCO was doing, we should take it from there. Same with the Attorney General's office. So there's somebody there who is supposed to do certain things. Once the special prosecutor has taken off those things, those mandates should be taken from that office. And the budget for that should be taken from that office. Otherwise, we are financing this, we are financing that, and then we are financing the new one. That is where the crunch comes. And I'm very sensitive to the size of government. Okay, so that is number one. We should be innovative about how we fund them, not a new tax. All right. All that said and done, there are many things we use money for in this country. Check how much money we spend on tea, snacks in offices. So it's difficult for anybody to say that we cannot find the money that we need to resource the special prosecutor. That being said, look, resourcefulness is more important than resources. We can give you $1 million, but if you are not resourceful, if you are not minded to do the work, if you are not activist in your approach, you would fail. Now, the Special Prosecutor's Office, I see it like a specialist law firm. I do believe that they need a lot, especially because they have to do investigations and all those kinds of things. And then they have a bureaucracy with a board and all those kinds of things. But they must not become another civil service bureaucracy where things don't move because we have not received anything. And I mean, Mr. Agyebeng comes from the private sector. He's not a typical government civil servant. So I believe that you have some of those, characters to move things forward. So I'm asking for the resourcing to be done, but I'm also saying that they should not sit down. One of the problems one of the things I disagreed with the former special prosecutor on was that he complained that nothing was done and he wanted this and wanted that. I think that if we had had a situation where the respected Martin Amidu, by himself, with his own resources, went to the Supreme Court and pushed forth, and even won cases. With what resources? It wasn't that much. Then there is so much you can do if you are resourceful. So it was a bit sad that, things turned out that way. So in short, I'm saying, let us give them what they need to do the work, because indeed, we are spending money on things that are not as important as the special prosecutor. That's one. Number two, we must have the boldness to take away from the budget of the existing institutions that do not or did not do the work, which we have now given to the special prosecutor, so that we don't fund this and then fund that. But all said and done, the special prosecutor's office must be resourceful to do the best it can do from the little resources that it has, whilst we all fight for it to be better resourced.
Kofi Mary Vitus, thank you very much. We'll return to this conversation as the special prosecutor continues with this. As you've heard, everybody agrees he's doing a great job at this point, and they all hope he will continue and see real results. Enjoy the rest of the evening.